Elon Musk sat on the porch of a cozy mountain cabin, soaking in the serene beauty of the snow-capped peaks and dense pine forests. It was a rare moment of peace for the billionaire visionary, far from the bustling world of Tesla and SpaceX. But his calm retreat was about to be shattered. In the distance, the unmistakable roar of motorcycle engines echoed through the valley. A group of leather-clad bikers emerged, their loud laughter and revving engines piercing the quiet mountain air. They parked near the cabin, casting curious glances at Elon and his minimalist setup. "Hey, isn't that the guy with the electric toys?" One of them jeered, sparking laughter among the group. Elon glanced at them, his expression calm but unreadable, as if he anticipated the storm brewing. Suddenly, the ground beneath them rumbled faintly, a sound so subtle it almost went unnoticed. But Elon's sharp eyes flicked toward the mountains, a hint of concern crossing his face. The bikers, too busy mocking him, remained oblivious. What happens when two worlds collide in the wilderness? Will Tesla's tech prove its worth, or will raw grit and rebellion reign supreme? Like, share, and subscribe to witness an unforgettable story of survival, transformation, and innovation. Conflict, a clash of worlds. The bikers settled outside the mountain cabin, their roaring engines now silent, but their presence just as loud. They leaned casually on their motorcycles, eyeing the quiet cabin with curiosity and amusement. "Can you believe this guy?" one of them said, pointing toward the porch where Elon Musk sat calmly. "A billionaire hiding out in a place like this? Thought he'd be in some high-tech mansion." The group chuckled as another biker added, "Yeah, maybe he's charging his brain with solar power." Elon, seated with a cup of tea in hand, didn't react to their jeers. Instead, he watched them with quiet interest, as though observing a puzzle he intended to solve. The bikers noticed his calm demeanor, which only fueled their taunts. "You know," said the leader, a tall man with a grizzled beard, "we've heard a lot about those fancy electric toys of yours. But out here, it's horsepower or nothing. Bet your little gadgets wouldn't last a day in the real world." The group erupted into laughter, but Elon remained unfazed. He stood slowly, placing his cup down on the porch railing. "Real world, huh?" he said, his voice measured. "Interesting perspective." The leader smirked. "Oh, we're full of perspectives. Like how no battery can replace a good oil gas engine." Before Elon could reply, the faint rumble from earlier returned, this time louder and more distinct. The sound echoed off the mountains, catching everyone's attention. Elon's expression shifted slightly, a mix of curiosity and concern. "What's that?" one biker asked, his bravado faltering. Elon glanced toward the distant peaks. "Something you might want to prepare for." The bikers exchanged uneasy glances as the rumble grew louder, setting the stage for what was to come. The bikers shifted uneasily as the rumble grew louder, a deep, unsettling sound that seemed to shake the very ground beneath them. "Probably just a truck on some dirt road," one biker said dismissively, though his voice lacked its usual confidence. Elon stepped off the porch, his sharp gaze locked on the mountain ridge. "Does that sound like a truck to you?" he asked calmly, his question hanging heavy in the air. The leader of the group scoffed. "All right, genius, what do you think it is? A spaceship?" Elon didn't reply immediately. Instead, he pointed toward the far edge of the valley, where a faint cloud of dust began to rise, growing larger with every passing second. "That," he said finally, "is a landslide." The bikers froze, their smirks replaced with wide eyes. "A landslide?" one of them repeated, his voice tinged with disbelief. The leader barked a nervous laugh. "You're kidding, right? This place looks solid as a rock." Elon didn't flinch. "Not solid enough," he said, motioning toward the ridge. The dust cloud was now accompanied by a cascade of tumbling rocks and debris, gaining speed and mass as it barreled downward. "All right, let's move," the leader barked, his instincts taking over. The bikers scrambled toward their motorcycles, but Elon held up a hand. "Wait," he said firmly. "Your bikes won't make it. We need to head for cover." Inside, the group hesitated, torn between their instinct to flee and Elon's calculated advice. The sound of the landslide grew deafening, the ground trembling underfoot. "Inside now," Elon commanded, his voice cutting through the chaos. The bikers reluctantly followed, their usual bravado now replaced by a growing sense of urgency. The group rushed into the cabin just as the first wave of rocks crashed into the valley below. Dust filled the air outside, blotting out the sunlight and making the scene look apocalyptic. Inside, the cabin felt like a fragile sanctuary against the chaos raging outside. The bikers huddled near the windows, peering out nervously. "That's insane," one of them muttered. "I've never seen anything like it." Elon calmly walked to a nearby desk, opening a sleek, compact Tesla-branded kit. Inside were several advanced devices: a drone, a small solar power generator, and a portable display screen. He began setting them up with practiced precision, ignoring the bikers' bewildered stares. "What the hell is that?" the leader asked, pointing at the equipment. Elon glanced up briefly. "Tools. We're going to need them." The bikers exchanged skeptical looks. "Tools for what?" "Hiding out until this thing stops." Tank, the bulliest of the group, folded his arms, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "No," Elon replied evenly. "For figuring out how to survive what's coming next." The leader frowned. "What do you mean next? Isn't the landslide enough?" Elon turned the display screen toward them, showing a detailed satellite view of the area. Using the drone, he projected real-time visuals of the mountain slope. "This is just the beginning," he explained. "The debris has blocked the main road, and the pressure could trigger secondary slides." "Wait, you're saying we're stuck here?" Riley asked, her voice edged with panic. "For now," Elon said, his tone calm but serious. "But we have options. If you're ready to listen." The group fell silent, the weight of their predicament finally sinking in. The bikers stared at Elon's screen, their bravado rapidly fading as the reality of their situation sank in. The leader leaned over, squinting at the real-time drone footage of the blocked road and the unstable mountain terrain. "All right, genius," he said, his tone less mocking and more serious. "What's your plan?" Elon tapped the screen, highlighting a narrow trail that curved around the blocked road. "This path might be our best shot," he said. "But it's risky. The ground is unstable, and we'll need to clear debris along the way." The bikers exchanged uneasy glances. "You're saying we should hike out of here?" Riley asked, skepticism laced in her voice. "No," Elon replied, holding up a small device from his toolkit. "I have equipment that can help us clear the path. This is a Tesla-powered portable excavator drone. It's designed for situations like this." Tank let out a laugh, though it sounded more nervous than genuine. "A drone? You expect that thing to do what we can't?" Elon's gaze was steady. "It's faster, stronger, and more efficient than you think. But we'll also need teamwork. The drone can handle the heavy lifting, but we'll have to guide it and stabilize the path manually." The leader rubbed his beard, eyeing the device warily. "And what happens if this toy of yours doesn't work?" Elon's lips curled into a faint smile. "It will work, but if you'd rather sit here and wait for help that might not come, be my guest." The bikers fell silent, realizing they didn't have much of a choice. "All right," the leader finally said, stepping forward. "Let's see what your fancy gadgets can do." Elon nodded, activating the drone. "Let's get to work." The drone sprang to life with a faint hum, its sleek, compact frame unfolding into a fully operational machine. The bikers watched in silence as it hovered steadily above the ground, its built-in lights cutting through the dust-filled air. Elon tapped on the portable display, guiding the drone toward the blocked trail. As the drone reached the debris, its mechanical arms extended, grabbing rocks with precision and tossing them aside like they weighed nothing. The bikers exchanged incredulous glances. "All right," Tank muttered, "I'll admit, that's impressive." For a robot. Elon didn't respond, his focus fixed on the screen. "Impressive isn't enough," he said calmly. "We need to clear at least 100 meters to make the path safe. And we'll need to reinforce the edges as we go." The leader nodded, stepping forward. "All right, you handle the drone. We'll handle the manual labor. Riley, Tank, grab those planks from the cabin and bring them here." The bikers sprang into action, their earlier skepticism giving way to determination. Riley returned with the planks while Tank carried ropes and makeshift tools. Together, they began reinforcing the edges of the trail, guided by Elon's precise instructions. Moments of humor broke the tension as the bikers struggled to keep up with the drone's efficiency. "Hey, slow down," Riley shouted jokingly as the drone cleared a massive boulder. "You're making us look bad." Elon smirked, but didn't break his focus. "You're doing fine," he said. "Just keep stabilizing the path. The more secure it is, the safer we'll be." As the trail began to take shape, the bikers couldn't help but marvel at how Elon's tech complemented their rugged skills. For the first time, it felt like two worlds weren't clashing. They were working together. The challenge: surviving the wilderness. As the group finished clearing the trail, the reality of their situation began to sink in. The landslide had completely cut off their access to the main road, leaving them stranded with no immediate hope of outside help. The cabin, though sturdy, was not equipped for an extended stay in the wilderness. Elon gathered the group around his portable display, projecting a map of the area. "We've managed to clear part of the trail, but it's only a temporary solution," he explained. "If we stay here too long, we risk being trapped by more slides or losing access to resources." The leader nodded, rubbing the back of his neck. "All right, so what's the plan? We can't just sit here waiting for the mountain to finish us off." Elon's gaze was steady. "We need to scout the area for safer ground and additional resources. Food, water, shelter. Those are our priorities. And we'll need to move efficiently." Riley raised an eyebrow. "Efficiently? With what? We're bikers, not hikers. And your drone isn't exactly carrying backpacks full of supplies." Elon's faint smile returned. "Not yet, but it can help us map the terrain, find water sources, and even scan for edible plants." Tank let out a low whistle. "Great, so we're playing survival games with a robot guide. This just keeps getting better." Ignoring the sarcasm, Elon activated the drone, sending it high above the trees. The display showed a detailed aerial view, highlighting potential water sources and safe paths. "We'll split into two teams," he said. "The drone will guide one group, while I lead the other. The goal is simple: find what we need to survive." The bikers exchanged nervous glances, realizing the stakes were higher than they'd thought. With the plan set, the group split into two teams. Elon took the leader and Riley with him, while Tank and two others followed the drone's guided path through the dense forest. The air was heavy with tension, the towering trees casting long shadows as the teams ventured into the unknown. Elon's group moved cautiously along the rocky terrain, scanning for any signs of water or edible plants. Riley, usually the loudest in the group, was unusually quiet, her sharp eyes darting around. "This doesn't exactly feel like a vacation anymore," she muttered, brushing a branch out of her way. The leader glanced at Elon, his tone skeptical but curious. "So, what's the plan if we don't find anything? Use one of your fancy gadgets to make food out of thin air." Elon smirked, but kept his focus ahead. "Not quite, but we will adapt. That's the key to survival. Using what you have to overcome what you face." Meanwhile, Tank's group followed the drone as it scanned the forest floor and highlighted potential resources on the portable display. "This thing is freaky accurate," one biker muttered, pointing to a cluster of wild berries the drone had identified as edible. "Yeah," Tank grumbled, picking some berries, "but I'd kill for a cheeseburger right now." The drone hovered above a shallow stream, its camera zooming in to confirm the water source. The group cheered quietly, relief washing over them. "At least we've got water," Tank said, filling a canteen. Back with Elon's team, Riley spotted a trail of animal tracks leading to a small clearing. "Looks like something lives here," she said cautiously. Elon nodded. "Good. Where there's wildlife, there's usually a food source nearby." The wilderness had thrown its first challenge, and the teams were learning to rise to it, together. Elon's team continued following the trail of animal tracks, their path winding through dense foliage. The air was heavy with the scent of pine, and the distant sound of rustling leaves kept them on edge. "This is starting to feel like a bad movie," the leader muttered, stepping over a fallen log. "What's next? A bear?" "Possibly," Elon said matter-of-factly, scanning the area with a handheld thermal sensor. "But if we stay alert, we'll be fine. Bears tend to avoid humans unless provoked." Riley glanced nervously over her shoulder. "Comforting," she said dryly. The thermal sensor lit up, highlighting a small cluster of warm shapes in the distance. "There," Elon said, pointing toward a patch of dense shrubs. As they approached cautiously, The shapes revealed themselves to be a small group of rabbits grazing in the underbrush. "Dinner," Riley whispered, her nervousness giving way to excitement. The leader frowned. "Great, but how do we catch them? Unless one of your gadgets can build us a trap." Elon crouched low, examining the area. "We don't need a gadget for this. Just some rope, patience, and a little creativity." Back with Tank's group, the drone guided them to a hollow tree filled with edible mushrooms. "Score," Tank said, gathering as many as he could carry. The drone beeped softly, its light flashing red. "What's it doing now?" one of the bikers asked. "It's warning us," Tank replied, pointing to the display. A heat signature showed a larger animal, possibly a deer, moving nearby. "Looks like we've got company." "Relax," Tank said, smirking. "I've been around wildlife my whole life. Just don't spook it." As both teams gathered resources, they began to understand that survival wasn't about strength alone. It was about strategy, teamwork, and adapting to the unexpected. The two teams reconvened near the cabin, their makeshift hall spread across a flat rock like an impromptu survival buffet. Tank's team placed the wild berries, mushrooms, and fresh water on one side, while Elon's group added some edible roots and a small bundle of herbs they had gathered. Riley eyed the pile skeptically. "So, we're officially foragers now," she quipped. "What's next? Starting a fire with sticks?" Elon glanced at her with a faint smile. "Actually, that's exactly what's next." He pulled out a compact Tesla-designed fire starter, a sleek tool that looked like a futuristic lighter. Within moments, a small but steady flame crackled to life, lighting up the group's tired faces. "Okay, that's cheating," Riley muttered, though her grin betrayed her amusement. The leader knelt by the fire, arranging the mushrooms and roots on a flat stone to cook. "I never thought I'd be roughing it with Elon Musk," he said, shaking his head. "But here we are." Tank leaned back against a tree, munching on a handful of berries. "I'll admit," he said between bites, "your tech's impressive. That drone probably saved us hours of work." "Probably," Riley shot back. "Without it, we'd still be staring at rocks wondering what to do next." Elon's tone was calm, but firm. "Technology isn't meant to replace effort. It's meant to amplify it. You all did the hard work. The tools just made it more efficient." The group nodded silently, the fire crackling in the background. For the first time, the bikers began to see Elon's tech as more than just gadgets. They saw it as a lifeline, a bridge between survival and failure. As they ate their modest meal, the tension eased, and laughter began to echo through the forest. The bikers, once skeptical of Elon's world, were starting to realize it wasn't so different from their own. As the group sat around the fire, their modest meal providing much-needed warmth and energy, the conversation began to shift. The bikers, once brash and dismissive, started asking Elon questions, not with sarcasm, but with genuine curiosity. "So, how do you come up with all this stuff?" Riley asked, gesturing toward the drone, the fire starter, and the other tools scattered nearby. Elon leaned back slightly, the firelight reflecting in his eyes. "It's simple," he said. "Every invention starts with a question. What problem are we trying to solve? Whether it's surviving in the wilderness or reducing carbon emissions, the process is the same." The leader nodded thoughtfully. "Guess we don't think about that much. We're more fix it when it breaks kind of people." "That's not so different," Elon replied. "It's just another way of solving problems, on the fly." Tank, chewing on a piece of roasted mushroom, smirked. "Yeah, but you've got billions of dollars and a team of geniuses. We got duct tape and attitude." The group chuckled, but Elon's response was serious. "Money doesn't solve problems. Thinking differently does. You'd be surprised how much you can innovate with limited resources." The bikers exchanged glances, their expressions thoughtful. For years, they had prided themselves on their rugged independence and hands-on approach. But here, in the wilderness, they were seeing a different kind of resourcefulness, one that combined innovation with practicality. Suddenly, the drone beeped loudly, its light flashing. Elon checked the display, his expression turning serious. "We've got movement," he said, pointing at the screen. The bikers leaned in, their camaraderie replaced by tension. A large heat signature appeared on the drone's feed, moving steadily toward the cabin. "What is it?" Riley whispered, We're about to find out, Elon replied, his voice calm but firm. The group huddled around the portable display, their faces illuminated by the flickering light of the drone's live feed. The heat signature on the screen grew larger, moving closer to their location with unsettling precision. "What do you think it is?" the leader asked, his voice low but tense. "Could be a bear," Elon said, his tone measured. "Or something bigger. Either way, we need to be prepared." Riley gripped a sturdy branch she had picked up earlier. Prepared? With what? A high-tech flashlight and some roasted mushrooms. Elon didn't flinch. He reached into his toolkit and pulled out a sleek, cylindrical device. With a quick motion, it unfolded into a compact electric deterrent. "This should keep anything from getting too close," he said calmly. The bikers exchanged skeptical glances. "That little thing's supposed to stop a bear?" Tank asked incredulously. "It's not about size," Elon replied, activating the device. A low-frequency hum filled the air, faint but noticeable. It emits a frequency most animals find uncomfortable. They'll steer clear. Moments later, the sound of heavy footsteps crunching through the underbrush reached their ears. The bikers instinctively backed closer to the fire, their bravado giving way to apprehension. The leader squinted into the darkness. "It's coming closer." Suddenly, the drone's light focused on the approaching figure. A massive elk stepped into the clearing, its antlers casting long shadows across the cabin wall. The bikers let out a collective breath, half relieved, half awed. "That's it," Tank muttered. "All that fuss for Bambi's big cousin?" Elon smiled faintly, deactivating the deterrent. "Nature isn't something to fear, it's something to respect. But it's always better to be cautious." The bikers laughed nervously, the tension dissipating. As the elk wandered off, they realized they weren't just surviving. They were learning. Transformation. The shift in perspective. The next morning, sunlight filtered through the trees, casting golden beams across the mountain cabin. The group stirred to life, weary but more focused than the day before. As they gathered around the remains of the fire, there was a noticeable change in their demeanor. Riley was the first to speak, her tone uncharacteristically reflective. "You know," she said, poking at the embers with a stick, "I used to think all this high-tech stuff was just for show. But after last night, it's kind of hard to argue with results." The leader nodded, glancing at Elon, who was quietly recharging the drone with a portable solar panel. "Yeah, I always figured people like you were more about talk than action," he admitted. "But you kept your cool out here better than most of us." Elon looked up, his expression calm. "It's not about tech versus tradition," he said simply. "It's about combining strengths. Your experience out here and my tools, they complement each other." Tank, chewing on a piece of jerky, grunted in agreement. "Still feels weird, though. Trusting gadgets instead of just figuring it out yourself." Elon smiled faintly. "Gadgets don't replace instinct. They enhance it. The tools only work if the people using them know what they're doing." The group fell silent, each of them absorbing the weight of his words. For years, they had defined themselves by their independence and resourcefulness. But now, they saw a different kind of strength and adaptability in teamwork. Riley broke the silence with a laugh. "Guess we're all techies now, huh?" The leader smirked. "Don't get ahead of yourself." But even he couldn't deny the shift in their thinking. As the morning progressed, the bikers and Elon worked together to prepare for the next leg of their journey. The tension that had once defined their interactions was gone, replaced by a quiet camaraderie. The leader, once dismissive of Elon's methods, now found himself asking questions. "So, what's the deal with this drone?" he asked, watching it hover effortlessly. "How does it know where to go?" Elon adjusted the controls, showing the leader the interface. "It uses a combination of thermal imaging and AI to map terrain and detect movement. The AI learns as it scans, so it becomes more accurate over time." The leader nodded, genuinely impressed. "That's actually pretty cool." Nearby, Riley was tinkering with a portable Tesla battery pack, her curiosity getting the better of her. "So, this thing can power like anything?" she asked. "Almost anything," Elon replied. "It's designed to store energy efficiently, especially in remote areas like this. Perfect for emergencies." Riley grinned. "Might have to swap out my motorcycle battery for one of these." Tank, sitting by the fire with a mug of coffee, chuckled. "Careful, Riley. Keep talking like that, and you'll end up trading your bike for a Tesla." The group laughed, the sound echoing through the clearing. For the first time since they had arrived, they felt at ease. Elon leaned against a tree, observing them quietly. "You know," he said, breaking the moment, "what I've seen here isn't so different from what we do in the tech world. Problem-solving, resourcefulness, adapting to challenges, it's all the same, just different tools." The leader nodded slowly, his respect for Elon growing with each passing moment. "Yeah," he said, "guess we're not as different as we thought." The bikers gathered around Elon as he demonstrated the finer workings of the Tesla tech they had been relying on. The portable solar panel, which had recharged the drone and their lights overnight, became a focal point of fascination. "So, this thing pulls power from the sun," Riley said, running her fingers along the sleek panel. "Why doesn't everyone have one of these?" Elon glanced at her with a knowing smile. "They will," he said. "But like most innovations, it takes time for people to see the value and to trust it." Tank crossed his arms, leaning against his motorcycle. "Yeah, well, most people don't like change. Feels like giving up what makes you, you." Elon nodded thoughtfully. "Change doesn't mean losing who you are. It's about becoming more. Think of it this way, your bikes, they're symbols of freedom, right? Imagine if that freedom came with less cost to the world around you. Wouldn't that make it even better?" The group fell silent, the weight of his words sinking in. The leader, who had been quietly listening, finally spoke up. "You're saying we don't have to give up what we love, just make it smarter." "Exactly," Elon replied. "It's about evolution, not replacement." Riley smirked, picking up a solar-powered flashlight. "You know," she said, flicking it on and off, "I never thought I'd say this, but maybe there's more to this tech stuff than I gave it credit for." Tank chuckled. "Careful, Riley. You're starting to sound like a Musk fan." The group laughed, but the shift in their perspective was undeniable. They weren't just surviving anymore. They were learning, growing, and seeing the world through a new lens. As the day stretched on, the bikers found themselves relying more and more on Elon's technology, and on him. What had started as mockery had turned into genuine collaboration. The leader sat on a log near the fire, watching as Elon calibrated the drone for another scan of the area. "You know," he began, his tone reflective, "I've spent my whole life believing in the raw, untamed power of machines. The noise, the grit, it's what makes a bike feel alive. But now, I'm starting to see the value in something quieter." Elon didn't look up from his work. "Power doesn't always need to announce itself," he said. "Sometimes, the strongest things are the ones you don't hear coming." Riley laughed, tossing a twig into the fire. "Like that elk last night? Pretty sure it almost gave Tank a heart attack." Tank groaned, but couldn't help chuckling. "Hey, at least I didn't scream." "Can't say the same for you." The group erupted in laughter, the tension of the past few days giving way to camaraderie. For the first time, the bikers seemed to be enjoying themselves, even in the challenging circumstances. As the laughter died down, the leader turned to Elon. "You know, we came here thinking we had you figured out. A billionaire playing with toys, out of touch with the real world. But you're not just about gadgets, are you?" Elon met his gaze, his expression thoughtful. "No," he said simply. "I'm about solving problems. And if my tools can help people, whether it's in a city or on a mountainside, that's all the validation I need." The leader nodded, a newfound respect in his eyes. "Well, consider us convinced." The bikers weren't just riders anymore. They were believers in a vision they never thought they'd share. Resolution, a newfound respect. The group stood together near the cabin, packing up their supplies and preparing to leave. The cleared trail stretched out before them, a testament to the teamwork and ingenuity that had gotten them through the past few days. Riley glanced back at the cabin, then at Elon. "You know," she said with a grin, "this trip turned out way different than I expected. Thought we'd be the ones teaching you a thing or two, but turns out you're not so bad at this survival stuff." Elon chuckled softly. "I think we taught each other a few things," he replied. "That's how progress works, collaboration." Tank, slinging a bag over his shoulder, smirked. "Still not trading my bike for one of your cars, though." "Good," Elon said, his tone playful. "I wasn't planning to ask, but maybe someday I'll have something you'd consider." The leader walked over, extending his hand. "You know, Musk, he said, "I didn't think I'd ever say this, but I respect what you're doing. It's easy to stick to what you know. Takes guts to push for something different." Elon shook his hand firmly. "And it takes strength to keep an open mind. You've got that, whether you see it or not." The bikers exchanged glances, their usual bravado softened by genuine admiration. For the first time, they felt like they were on the same team, not just with Elon, but with a larger idea of what the future could be. "All right," the leader said, turning toward the trail. "Let's get moving. The world's not going to believe this story when we tell it." Riley laughed. "Yeah, especially the part where Musk saved our butts." As the group headed down the trail, the air was lighter. They weren't just leaving the mountain, they were leaving as changed people. As the group descended the trail, the rhythmic crunch of their footsteps filled the quiet air. The once rough camaraderie had transformed into something genuine, mutual respect born out of shared challenges. The drone hovered above, guiding their path with its soft, steady hum. Riley glanced up at it, shaking her head in disbelief. "I still can't believe this thing actually works. Feels like something out of a sci-fi movie." Tank, trudging behind her, smirked. "Yeah, but I bet it doesn't handle mud like my bike does." The leader chuckled. "Give it a rest, Tank. You know you're impressed. We all are." He turned to Elon, walking a few paces ahead. "So, Musk, what's next? You heading back to your world of tech and billionaires?" Elon glanced back, his expression thoughtful. "The way I see it, this is my world too," he said. "Technology isn't just about cities or labs. It's about solving real problems, no matter where they happen." The group nodded, the weight of his words sinking in. They had seen firsthand how innovation could complement their rugged lifestyle, bridging the gap between tradition and progress. As they reached the edge of the cleared path, the leader stopped and turned to Elon. "You know, if you ever want to trade that fancy drone for a real ride, look me up," he said with a grin, tapping the handlebars of his motorcycle. Elon smirked. "Deal. And if you ever want to trade that bike for something quieter, I might have a few ideas." The group laughed, their voices echoing through the valley. As they mounted their bikes and roared off down the trail, Elon stood watching, his calm smile reflecting a quiet sense of accomplishment. In their rear-view mirrors, the bikers carried more than just their stories. They carried a newfound belief that innovation wasn't the enemy of tradition. It was the future. As the bikers disappeared down the trail, their roaring engines slowly faded into the distance. Elon Musk stood at the edge of the mountain, his gaze fixed on the path they had just cleared together. The wilderness, once a place of isolation and conflict, had become a stage for transformation, innovation, and unexpected camaraderie. A soft hum signaled the drone's return, hovering silently beside him as a reminder of the tools that had made survival possible. Elon gave it a small nod before folding it back into his pack. Voiceover. Sometimes, the greatest challenges come from the most unexpected places. And sometimes, the most unexpected people can teach us the greatest lessons. The scene shifted to a montage. The bikers laughing around the fire, using Tesla's gadgets to navigate the wilderness, and finally riding off with a new perspective on life and technology. Voiceover. In the end, it's not about tradition or innovation. It's about finding a balance, a way forward where both can thrive. The screen faded to black, and bold text appeared. What's your take on the future of innovation? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories of transformation, teamwork, and the power of possibility.